Is this thing on? Of course it is. I always come prepared for recording. Not for my fantasy team. This week, another loss. Happens, Happens to the best of us. And by the best of us, I mean me, John, and Frankie, and Jones, where we just can't seem to catch a break. But, gentlemen, I have some Week 9 awards, and I thought of a cool thing of what to do with the awards this week, where I would do comps to NFL teams, some past, some present, and then for the Week 10, we'll look ahead, good slate of games coming up. But, let's just get going with the awards. First award goes to Michael Clark. Now, Mike's 6-3. Kind of like a forgettable 6-3. Mike's not really popping off in the group chat. He had that one night where he said Drost had a smooth brain, or a silky brain, or a dumb brain. It was one of those. So Mike's very quiet. And the comp I thought for Mike was the Las Vegas Raiders. Because when I was talking about the Raiders the other day, I kept wanting to say Oakland. Same thing happened in 2017 with the Rams. I always wanted to say St. Louis, but in reality it was Los Angeles. Same thing 2018 with the Chargers. I always wanted to say San Diego. But you always forget that team moved, those teams moved, and I forget still that the Raiders are Las Vegas Raiders. So the reason that Mike's the Las Vegas Raiders, it's because they're forgettable. They're both forgettable teams. But when you hear that record of 6-3, you go, damn, that's impressive. So Michael, congrats to you on your win. That was impressive. Now, for the next comp, I'm going to go to who Mike beat this week, and I'm going to go to myself. And this one was pretty easy to come up with. I gave myself the Houston Texans prior to Week 5 when they fired Bill O'Brien. This year, I am the Bill O'Brien of managing football teams. A team with great potential, or at least potential that I ruined because I had Juju, Thielen, and Cook traded away for... Basically, I traded those three guys away for Ruggs and Saquon. Saquon's injured, and Ruggs is now off my team. So the reason I gave myself the Houston Texans award is just because, like Bill O'Brien, he trades great assets for chump change, and that's what I did. And he got fired, and since this is a league that redrafts every year, I will technically be fired from my fantasy team this year and hopefully learn my lesson so for that next year I can bounce back. I incorporated some past events, so the reason why I gave myself the Texans is because, the last 2 years they made the playoffs, just like myself. I made the championship the last 2 years, and then this year they were just, for some reason, in fire sale mode and only have 2 wins on the season. So I thought that was a pretty comparable comp, to say I'm the Bill O'Brien of this league's fantasy. Next, let's go to Stanklin Cruz Rosa. He's a Los Angeles Chargers man, always finding ways to lose, always in it, always finding ways to lose. The Chargers, I couldn't imagine. I mean, being a Giants fan sucks, but I couldn't imagine being a Chargers fan. So much hope, and just always losing. And I mean, Frankie, yes, you did lose by a lot this week to Jake, but every other week, man, it's just, you get your hopes up and they come crashing down, and no better to give you a comparison than the Los Angeles Chargers. You got a couple studs on your team, like the Chargers have Herbert and Allen, but other than that, it's just bad. So, Frankie, you are the Los Angeles Chargers. Next, let's go to Ryan Christopher Dupont. Now, when I said I was doing teams from past and present, I have two teams from the past, and Ryan, you were one of them. Um, you're the 2019 Patriots, Ryan. They won the Super Bowl against the Rams, 13-3. And then the next season, they started off 8-0, which you didn't, but they started off 8-0, and then kind of took a dip. Finished, I believe it was 12-4. Went to the playoffs, lost in the first round, and Ryan, I projected you to make the playoffs last time we talked, video form, but if you make it, buddy, I think you might just be out first round by the way it's looking. So, giving you the 2019 Patriots, some things to think about. Obviously, since we redraft, you'll blow it up at the end of the year and pick some new players for next year's draft. But as Bill Belichick said last week, and what you can say is, I sold out, won a chip. And that's what Bill said. You can say that too, because you did get a chip. You got a nice little ring to show for it. But that was past accomplishments. This is this year, and sitting at 4-5 after just coming off of a brutal loss to Dan, who we're going to talk about next, it's tough. Dan's team. I'm going to give him the Green Bay Packers. Same record, 6-3. I think the Packers might be 6-2 because they had a bye, but Dan's 6-3, same amount of wins. With the Packers, it's all Aaron Rodgers. That's all it is. They lose by him, except for the Vikings game. They lost due to their run defense. But the Packers will either lose because of Aaron Rodgers or win because of Aaron Rodgers. There's no in between. And Dan loses by everyone else on his team or wins by Dalvin Cook. There's no other in between. So, the reason I give Dan this award is because big fan of Colin Cowherd. I was listening to Colin last week, and he said the Packers beat up on bad teams, and everyone goes, oh, look at, they're 6-2, they're great. But in reality, since they play bad teams, they lose to them. Dan has beaten bad teams, and he's lost to good teams. So I give Dan the Green Bay Packers award. And also, because if you guys look at the Packers, whenever they cut to Aaron Rodgers, he always got bags under his eyes. It looks very sleepy, and I think it would be funny to say Sleepy Dan in terms of this year's fantasy season. So Sleepy Dan gets the Green Bay Packers award. Next. Oh, I like this one. I have John Strikehards. Can you guess what it is? It's the Washington football team. And what I thought about, why I thought this one was really funny, was because this is the third year doing it. You haven't made playoffs the first 2 years. You're not going to make it this year. And like the Washington football team, the one consistency across those 3 years is you. So each year you can change your name, do whatever you'd have to, like they did this year. But the one consistent part is they're still poorly mismanaged. So John, you get the Dan Snyder Award of the Year for the Washington football team. Congrats. I don't know if it's a good award, but it's an award you got. Next, we have Jones. Jones is 3-6. Jake texted me Sunday night and said, can you give Zach the Mr. Deny award, because everyone tells Zach to make a trade and he always just denies. Just like he did in Tupac's class when he cheated. But that's beyond the point. With Jones, I'm going to give him the Philadelphia Eagles award. Jones, when we were talking 2 years ago last year about giving Frankie a ring, some people were like, no, because if we're incorporating it in 2019, we shouldn't care about 2018 past accomplishments. Jones said, well, half of our league was in a league together in high school when I won it, so I should get a ring. The reason that Jones gets the Philadelphia Eagles award is because He's just holding on to past accomplishments, just like Doug Peterson's doing. Doug Peterson is riding high off of that Super Bowl, where the quarterback he has now isn't even the quarterback that he won the Super Bowl with. Nick Foles was the quarterback. It wasn't Carson. And Jones, you got to look forward. Stop looking behind you, man. You're playing sloppy games. You lost to Borelli, who we'll get to him next, but Borelli's team is just goddamn abysmal. And I'm glad he didn't come into the group chat piping off saying, like, trade doesn't look so bad now, because Borelli, in hindsight, it still does. George Kittle was told 8 weeks. He said it's going to be 2. He's a freak. And Nick Chubb's coming back week 10. So, Jones just sloppy games here and there, and I'll see you in loser's bracket. Next, we have Borelli. I gave him the Minnesota Vikings team. With the Vikings, they're usually in the playoffs. And, you know, they're well coached by Mike Zimmer, but there's some things you'd like to change, like maybe a new quarterback. For Borelli, why he's getting the Minnesota Vikings award is, you know, both teams in 2020 started off dead in the water, then kind of picked it up on a nice little win streak. Borelli, your team's still really bad, just like the Vikings. And you're going to win some games down the stretch, and you're going to gain confidence, just like the Vikings will do. They're 3-5 or 3-6. So you're going to win some games. You're probably going to finish like 7-9, gain some confidence, and then for next year, just come on to draft night talking about how, oh, if I just had these key aspects last year, it would have been different. You did this 2 years ago in 2018 when you had Zeke, Melvin Gordon, and Kareem Hunt, and Zeke got hurt, Melvin Gordon got hurt, and then Kareem Hunt kicked a woman. And I remember you saying, if it wasn't for those, I would have been in the championship. You're a big if guy. If it wasn't for this, if it wasn't for that. Your biggest problem, your biggest weakness, Nick, is that you're huge on the word if. And Vikings fans, I know a couple, their biggest thing is, if we didn't have Kirk Cousins. Well, I'm sorry you do. And that's why you're getting the Minnesota Vikings award, because you should just take if out of your vocabulary and move on and just tear it down and rebuild. See you in the loser bracket. Next, we have Drost. I'll give him the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Sunday night, the Bucs got embarrassed. Last week, Drost lost by, I think, 80 or 90 or something like that. And Drost goes, well, I didn't have these 3 guys. It was like Mike Evans, I think Hopkins, and James Robinson. And from podcasts that I listened to yesterday, talking about the Bucs' demise, they were saying, oh, well, if they had so-and-so healthy, if AB and Brady got on the same page, it would have been much different. So for Drost, the reason why he gets the Bucs is because Antonio Brown's a head case, and sometimes Drost, you're kind of like, I'm not saying you're equivalent to Antonio Brown by any means, but I would say you're like the Antonio Brown of our league, where, you know, people always target you, go after you. In the group chat, it's always you versus everybody. It's 1 versus 9. So I would say you're like Antonio Brown in the fact that people want to see you lose. And I don't mean that as a diss. I think that's a very powerful thing, is that so many people want to see you lose, and yet you're still 6-3, best team in your division. So you get the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, mainly for the fact that lose some sloppy games, but you'll bounce right back. You won this week, so congrats. I was talking primarily about last week. And also just the whole fact of, you know, people are kind of tired of seeing Brady sling the rock. People are kind of tired of hearing you win. So, Drost, you get the Tampa Bay Bucks. Jake, you get the Chiefs, man, from last year. What more can I say? It's just, your team's too good. It's very, very good. Forgot I have to look ahead to next week. Week 10 awards or Week 10 preview. But with Jake, what I will say is that a couple weeks ago, I think this was like Week 7, maybe 8 or 6, one of those three. And I was thinking, like, oh, Jake, like, it's not going to really matter because, like, if you get one injury, then your team's going to crumble because you didn't have a lot of depth. You have since improved your depth from your fleecing of a trade with Borelli. So, I mean, like, you're just the Chiefs, man. You can win from any point. Kamara could have a great game. You won when DK had 6 points a couple weeks ago. Doesn't matter for you, Jake. You always pull away, always find a way. Congrats, buddy. For the Week 10 look ahead, it's me and Frankie, man. And we got our little Dr. Brooks on, we got our Asics on, we got our running shorts on. We're racing, man. We're racing to that punishment. We're racing to that loser's bracket. I hope I get a win this week, and then Frankie and I will be tied for last. That would be hilarious. 2 years removed, both of us, from being in the championship together where Frankie bested me. So I still have a revenge game coming. But, I mean, we got the Houston Texans versus the Chargers. This is a skip game. This is, you change the channel to this game and then you skip it. I got me by 10. We got Dupe versus Jake. We got staying alive or staying undefeated. Dupe, you can't. You're 4-5. You can't afford to lose another game. With Dan pulling away, Dan and Jost are tied for first. You can't afford to lose it. You need to win out. And Jake, you need to stay alive or stay undefeated. I mean, yes, you could lose a couple games here or there, but how impressive would that be if you win it all? It could be like fantasy baseball a couple years ago where you lost in the finals and then didn't pay draws for a week, but we don't have to talk about that until the finals. So this is staying alive versus staying undefeated. Got Jake here by 5. I think it's going to be a close game, but Jake's going to win. Mainly because Big Ben might have COVID. I think he does. So Mason's not really going to be passing to Juju. So we'll see. We'll see how Jacob does. They also are playing the Cincinnati Bengals, who have, out of 53 men, the only person that's noticeable on that team is Burrow. Next, we have Dan and John. It's an ego boost. Dan's probably going to win this one, I would say by 10 or 15. Then come Tuesday, he'll be piping off in the group chat again. Sleepy Dan telling us how great his team is. We're not going to believe it because come playoff time, we're going to see who the frauds are and who the crooks are. But, John, I mean, like, this... It's between me, you, and Frankie right now for who's gonna have to do the punishment, and you gotta pull one together. And by golly, buddy, hopefully it's Dan, for your sake and for Dupe's sake. Because if you beat Dan and Dupe wins, then Dupe is just one game away. So I have Dan by 10 or 15, and then we're gonna I can predict it now. We're just gonna hear in the group chat. Tuesday morning, Dan just blah, 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 blah. Sleepy Dan. We'll see how he does. Next, we have... Our last 2 games are Borelli versus Mike and Dross versus Jones. I piled this one together, this look ahead. I think Mike's going to win, and I think Dross is going to win. Dross by like 20, Mike by 40. I piled these 2 together because throughout high school, it was always Dross and Jones, and... For me being on the football team, I always saw Borelli and Mike together. Fun little story, when Borelli joined the football team my junior year, never even talked to the kid, didn't know him, and I've been friends with Mike since I was like 8, and I was like, who's this Borelli kid? Why is he joining the football team? He looks like a tool. He had like a Facebook profile pic of him in like a shirt and a vest and a shoe, and I was like, we don't need this kid. Why is he joining the team? And Mike's like, give him a chance. So Mike has always gone to bat for Borelli. And I think it's really cool to see Borelli and Mike face off, and to see Jones and Dross face off. Two friends, but turning frenemies. I mean, guys, we're all friends here in this group, but I think it's very interesting to see. I have Drost by 15 and Mike by 40. All right, guys, that's 20 minutes in. Thank you to listen for my blog, and I will see you guys in the group chat once you watch this. So, take care.